Yeah.
All right, guys, here we go. I don't even know what week it is, week 20, 25. I don't know. This is Eddie Munster and the Flying High with the Birds podcast. With me are, I'll start off with the newlywed. Well, we're not going to talk much about Hertz today, or maybe we will.
Oh, I'm sure we will. We'll pop up once in a while. How's everybody doing?
Good. Everybody's good. We got the podcast chaplain. Jimmy, what's up, dude?
What's up, guys? What a great weekend of football.
And we are going to talk about that
football I
tonight.
ever saw.
We certainly are. And last but not least, the Anvil, the Armenian Hammer, Vahe, who everybody.
Hi guys.
Everybody
it was a nice treat. That game wasn't all the games were really good.
Oh my God. I mean, all last second plays. The first three games are decided by last second field goals. And of all the, if you wouldn't have thought that the last game couldn't magnify what the first three were like, the last game was the best of probably all four, if you look at everything. But here's my first question that I'll throw out to all of you. Since this is an Eagles podcast, how much does it tell you that the Eagles need to do to be anywhere near the teams that played last week? I'll start with you, Vahe.
Oh, it's complete. It's like in JV versus varsity, and unbelievable. I mean, the first week when they played against the Bucks and they lost big, everybody said, "Oh, Bucks, they're going to win the Super Bowl," because they thought that, oh, that's the standard, right? And yet, when they played against the Rams and they played against a pressure defense, and they showed you that basically Brady's getting old, and it was just a fluke. You know, this was a false sense of security or expectations. You know, and a lot of work to be done. I mean, it starts with the coaching too. Gannon, I don't know. I mean, that guy's being considered for a head coaching job. He can't even do the DC job.
I got to tell you, that text you sent with if Gannon has with his first interview, 15 yards away, and he didn't press for details. That was just wonderful. Whoever made that up. But I mean, seriously, yeah. But Will, I mean, when you look at the work that the quarterbacks and all did, doesn't it kind of show you how far behind Hertz is than, you know, some of these elite quarterbacks that we saw last weekend?
Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm not even going to take a shot at Hurts, but like you could just see that like the Eagles are so far behind. Like these teams in the playoffs are so physical, they're so fast. You know, they're coached well. They're just on a whole nother playing field right now. And if you think about like the quarterback, and you know, I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people tell me sometimes, you know, you don't need an elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl. And, you know, you don't. The part of that is true. You don't. You can get a great team around, and you can have a decent quarterback to win a Super Bowl. But the way that I look at it is there's some elite type quarterbacks, and they're in the mix every year in and year out. And it gives your team the opportunity to just have a chance. And that's what these elite quarterbacks do. They give you almost like a better probability of winning a Super Bowl because they're always in the mix. And that's kind of where, like, you know, I see these guys, and Josh Allen is just, he looks so great.
Oh my God.
Burrow looks amazing, and he's so young. Patrick Mahomes.
That last touchdown, it was unbelievable. He kept scrambling around, and then he found that one guy who's open in between. Right on the money. I mean, there's no way Hurst can do that. No way, no how.
He made plays like that like 3 or 4 times the other night where he was just scrambling and he just found somebody. It was incredible to watch.
Now, who are we talking about?
For him when we lost that game.
We're talking about Allen, right?
Allen, I'm talking about
yeah.
It's
I'll tell you,
amazing. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's amazing seeing like some of these young quarterbacks, how they can throw the ball. And, you know, right now we're kind of in like a transition phase where the greats that we know of are leaving the game and they're getting old, and these new young guys, we're still trying to figure out who's going to be that next elite type guy that's going to be great for the next 15 to 20 years. And we're starting to see it in the playoffs right now. Like, these are going to be the young guys of the future, and there's not many out there. I kind of like, I want to be able to get one of these guys so I know that my team's going to be in the mix every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
They kept saying, I read it somewhere, they said that basically this is Brady and Manning on steroids, because the way they were playing, both of them, they were like amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. And not to take anything from Brady, he still came back in that game, and
Oh.
if he got the ball, they were going to win. So I can't even,
Yeah.
can't even take it from him. They started out slow, but he fought back, and I'm still shocked that they came back from that deficit.
I don't
Yeah,
even want to talk. I had good money on the Bucks to win that game.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know what really annoys me most about the beat writers in Philadelphia? I mean, they try to force feed you the fact that basically Gannon is this genius that we're missing on something. And if he leaves the Philadelphia, we're going to miss him after he leaves. Or Hurst is on the right track and give him a couple of more years and he'll be like him, big time quarterback. I mean, come on, guys, just chill. I mean, the thing is that are you kidding? Who's Gannon? Hasn't shown nothing whatsoever. Why are you seeing something that we don't see? Like majority of the people, they don't see, except you and a couple of you other beat writers can see it. That really annoys me the most.
Yeah,
Like Ruben Frank, like the other day he had an article that says, well, you guys are idiots if you think that basically Gannon is not doing a good job. What the hell are you talking about?
look who we played. We haven't played anybody.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't done anything. Anytime we played a full strength team, we've gotten smoked. And
we got
quarterbacks have had
smoked.
like 100 QBRs against us, which is like historically bad.
yep.
But it also goes to show you defensively what the Eagles don't have. And I think it's obvious that no matter who the defensive coordinator was, defensively, they wouldn't have been able to match up with any of those teams. And I don't care what kind of scheme they had. That's just my opinion. I just think that the Eagles just don't have the players.
They don't have the coaching either.
I
Like,
hope
look at Sean Payton. I mean, look at the guy, what he did with the depleted team. They didn't have a quarterback. They didn't have nobody. And still got them, 9-7 record at the end? I mean, come on.
very
I
good
hope the
defense.
Eagles realize they have a lot of work to do. I hope
Well,
they're
they got a
not-
very good defense, but let's, Jimmy, I'm going to start with you. Let's start with Cincinnati, their 1916 win over the Tennessee Titans. Tell me a little bit about what you think about this, Joe Burrow and
he's a winner.
Jamar Chase
He's
connection.
a winner. They got that combo. He's a winner. I'm very, very impressed with the Bengals, and their offensive line's questionable. Look what they're doing, but they just got 3 stud receivers, and Barrow just, threads the needle. Boom, boom, boom.
But Jamar Chase it's agreed now that he is the real deal.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's funny. Remember when the camp started, they didn't think he was going to be the player they thought he was going to be because he wasn't holding. He was dropping
Because of all the
passes like crazy because he thought that he was saying that the ball was too big. So
Yeah,
I'm looking
yeah.
back on this, and maybe it was just a ploy, and he knew how great he was going to be. But I think that also the success that Chase has is directly related to how good Burrow really is. I mean, the two of them together, one feeds off the other. And Burrow's been a lot better this year because of Chase, and the opposite.
Jimmy, I was thinking about the same thing when I was watching the Bengals game and their offensive line was basically bad. And I said, can you imagine if he was on the Eagles team behind our line? Oh my God. I mean, that's going to be like an amazing, offensive game, but it is what it is.
How do you
It's
think
only his second year.
How do you think Hurts would do if he was put in that same offense? Better
He'll be dead.
receivers, but worse
Nah.
offensive line.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. I think he probably would struggle, but I think it's possible that maybe Burrow is also getting good coaching out there because Taylor's supposedly like a quarterback guru, and his brother was the quarterback coach for the Eagles last year. So he comes from a long line of offensive quarterback coaches and players over the years. But you're right about the offensive line for Cincinnati. I think it's rather obvious at this point that, I mean, they're going to focus heavily on offensive line help. He was sacked 8 times last week, which is a record. I think 8 times.
9. Was it 8?
9?
Nine,
8 or
times.
9
9
times.
times.
And he just came back like he was a 10-year veteran, which really was amazing. And that kicker, they drafted him in the 5th round, that Evan McPherson or whatever.
Yeah.
McPherson, yep.
He's going to be in this league for many, many years. There's no doubt about it. I just got a feeling about that team. I
He's
don't
been
know
all
why.
over the TV this week too, doing every interview.
Yeah, I just got a feeling about them, and
No.
I think that they have to keep Kansas City's offense off the field. I think to win this.
They're going in there at house money, so
Now, how do you guys think about the other team, Tennessee? Like, they kind of need a quarterback too, because they got awesome offensive weapons, but that quarterback just turns the ball over too much, and he doesn't throw deep.
I agree. I think they need a quarterback. Did they move on from Tannehill?
No, they
the
gave him a
second year
big
they went out
contract
in a
last
row.
year. They signed a big contract.
Yeah, no,
Was it last year?
I think he's got a few years left.
He got $100 million contract with like 90 guaranteed or
Yeah,
something.
but think
Hey,
about
the
it.
Wentz did it. The Wentz signed. Eagles signed Wentz, and they got rid of him.
Oh my God,
Happen. It could
they're
happen.
getting.
Well, you have to find a sucker to take your trash.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Speaking of Wentz, but seriously, speaking of Wentz, I got a great
Hey,
point.
I just tried to sneak him in there. I didn't want to talk about Wentz today.
Well, no, we're going to talk about him.
He's
real quick.
done. I mean, he's done. I don't know. He's an afterthought.
But let's talk about him real quick. Here's one thought I have. The Colts could have easily done something so that Wentz didn't get his 70% snaps, possibly so that they wouldn't get their first draft choice. The Eagles wouldn't get their first draft choice, but they didn't do that. They stick to the plan, and the Eagles got their first round draft choice as a result. On the other hand, and now like you can trust Indianapolis when you want to make a trade with them. On the other hand, Vahe, I'm going to ask you this. Do you get the feeling that maybe a lot of teams now are going to feel like that they don't trust Roseman and the Eagles to make trades down the road because they knew that Wentz was damaged goods before they traded him?
I don't know. I mean, it wasn't as much as Roseman selling. It was basically the Colts buying, and it's on them. I mean, everybody saw the way he played. They didn't sugarcoat anything. They saw how much he was struggling, but they assumed that the change of scenery is going to help, and also going for it to the head coach was his offensive coordinator during this 2017 year. They thought maybe change of scenery and a new coaching staff can make a change. They didn't realize that basically the guy's done. He didn't sugarcoat it. It is what it is. Everybody saw it. So I don't think so. It's more on the coaching staff that basically sold the idea to the ownership, saying that, this guy, he's the real deal. All he needs is basically a new address. And they got a new address, and then that was it. Nothing changed.
I agree, but I think there could be that perception out there that teams are going to, just think twice when they want to make a deal with the Eagles, because the Eagles are really getting like that cap now after this year now gets that dead cap money is going to now get reversed to the Colts. The Colts are now stuck with a quarterback that looks like he might be totally damaged goods. And then the Eagles get a first round draft choice out of it. When you make a decision like this and it ends up costing you this could put the team back maybe 3 or 4 years. And especially with the quarterback being such an important position. I mean, I don't know, Will, I don't know if you think that would be the case, but the Colts could take some real steps back here.
No, I agree with you. They totally can. And on the contrary to that, look at the Eagles. We're kind of taking a step back because we messed up giving Wentz a contract. I mean, it works both ways. For them, for their sake, they kind of got to just stick with him and hope he turns it around and it pans out. And for us, I mean, we're still not sure if Hurts is the guy. I'm pretty confident he's not. But until we find a quarterback and until they find a quarterback, the team's really not going anywhere. Both teams are kind of in purgatory.
Yeah, but who was it out of the four guys here? Who was it that said that trading Wentz was the biggest mistake ever? I can't remember.
Oh, well, I mean,
One of the four here, like was just
we
we're
have
gonna
Hurts. So
say
technically, it
Yeah.
hasn't been a good idea yet.
right.
You know, to be honest with you, separate from that joke, the thing is that after I watched this weekend with all the teams and the talent they have, I mean, the Eagles with Rosman, he's not really a football guy. They need a GM who has a football background to really build up this team. I mean, we get excited about Jordan Marietta that they picked him at the 8th round or the 10th round, whatever, right? But he keeps screwing up on the 1st, 2nd, and the 3rd rounds every year. So how are you going to build a team by getting lucky with the 8th round or the 7th round? You don't have the talent. I mean, this team is not going anywhere next year. I mean, it's not the same level as the other teams. So let's see what he does in the, in the draft. But I'm not really too excited about what he's going to do.
Yeah. All right. Now, while we're on this, what I wanted to do is I wanted to slip in the Eagles. I wanted to slip in some Eagles talk with the playoff games because this was the best weekend of all time, I think, of playoff games. Let's go to the second game. Green Bay, San Francisco. San Francisco wins 13-10. And it was like to think 4 degrees wind chill factor out in Green Bay, which played a big part. And the snow really started coming down in the 4th quarter. I love San Francisco's defense. I love the pressure that they bring. Jimmy, do you think that Rodgers is starting to take a little bit of a step back here?
I think it was his last game in Green Bay. Is he 0 for 4 against the 49ers now? Is that
Yes,
what
he is?
It's just it's some team, some
It's his
guys
hometown team.
They just have his number. And I was impressed by the 49ers, especially how the Packers got up right away. And then Garoppolo, not a big Garoppolo fan, but you got to give him credit. He took the team down the field. They tied the game up, then they get the winning field goal. And hey, they knocked out Rodgers and might have ended his Packer career.
I'm going to tell you something.
I think he's going. I think he's leaving there. I think he's going up in Denver or somewhere.
Well, let me put it to you this way: he'll be 39, I guess, next year. And if he's not on the Packers, the Packers are in mediocrity. No more 13-3 seasons. That's going to end. But I'll tell you something. To me, Jimmy Garoppolo stinks. He could have thrown at least 4 picks. How many throws did he have to the sideline off his back foot where they easily could have been intercepted and run back for touchdowns? He's very lucky that he's been with good teams. And that defense is tough. They are physical and tough. And, I remember when the Eagles played them early in the season, they still limited the Eagles didn't do anything. And they were missing, I think, their two starting defensive backs that game. But they're just amazing with that pass rush. That Joey Bosa he's a beast, man. And he's just getting over like a concussion, I think, himself. So I don't know. San Francisco, they advance. Defense always has a chance. If you have a really good defensive team, they have a chance to go real far in the playoffs. I give all 4 teams a chance to win this, this coming week. And but San Francisco, I like San Francisco too. And here's a thought for you, Brahe. Could you imagine if it's Cincinnati and San Francisco in the Super Bowl? Cincinnati, it would be their 3rd, and the first 2 times was against San Francisco.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's possible it could end up being 3 times that they would play San Francisco. But Vahe, seriously, your thoughts on the 49ers, and do you think that they really have a chance to do, the impossible without an elite quarterback?
No, I think that's why they drafted a new quarterback, right? I mean, I think Garoppolo is on the market. They're willing to trade him because they already drafted somebody that they think is the future. No, he doesn't have the talent. He's just lucky with a good defense and a well-structured team. And most probably they're going to lose this weekend against the Rams. So he's
beat him twice. Beat him twice.
Yeah, but this is the playoffs. I mean, this is the different setup. And you cannot, it's going to be hard for him to beat 3 times.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's tough to beat someone 3 times.
Yeah.
And another thing that you guys haven't mentioned, I mean, both those quarterbacks look awful in that game. Special teams, that's what
Oh
won
my
the game.
God. Did
The
that guy
Packers-
get fired yet?
He has to. He's got to be fired after that. I mean, there was malfunctions. There was misplays all game on special teams, and I didn't even notice the field goal to win the game. Who was it? Not the Rams.
Tampa, the Bucks.
No. Who?
Oh, you're talking about the
49ers.
Packers. You're talking about the Packers.
The Packers only had 10 guys on the field for the last kick.
No, you're right. Exactly. Did you guys see that number 46, the long snapper for the Packers, getting pushed? Like he was getting pushed back into the punter every time the block was because he got pushed right back into the punter. And then the time after that, when they punted, the same thing almost happened. So I don't know. I mean, it's a shame.
Rodgers reminds me of the Peyton Manning and Dan Marino. Great stats during the regular season, but they choke in the playoffs. Yeah. And he's been in the league for 15 years. He only has one Super Bowl, and a lot of the games were at home. So I mean, you can have a lot of regular season stats, MVP type of numbers, but when it comes to the playoffs, man, he's not delivering.
You're right.
I think he's referenced it.
They were the first. They had a first round bye.
Yeah. I think he's 11-10 actually in the playoffs by. I think you're right.
It's something like that. Yeah.
He's like 11-10. I think 4 of the 10 losses have been in overtime.
But I'll tell you, but I don't they're not, I've never considered the Packers over the last 10 to 15 years to be a very physical team. They're not like that. They're not built like that. And I think maybe that has hurt the mystique of how good Rodgers really could be. He's still a great quarterback. To me,
Marino was an excellent quarterback. He was the best quarterback probably Jeffrey Doty likes to have, 5,000 yards, whatever, but he couldn't win.
I agree.
He went to one Super Bowl and he lost to the Redskins. So
no, I agree but getting back to Rodgers and the Green Bay, there wasn't a lot of points scored, but it was the weather conditions were brutal. And if you think about this, they went down methodically and scored on the first possession. Like it was, so you thought that they were going to have about 4 or 5 touchdowns. They didn't have any touchdowns after that. They were nothing.
Because the defensive coordinator adjusted the setup. The problem with the Rodgers that he couldn't see what's going on and he couldn't react, adjust himself.
Well, this is what it was. The San Francisco dominated, to me, even though it went down to the very end. I thought that San Francisco dominated both lines of scrimmage. And I think that's the problem with Green Bay, because they're not a physical team. You can run on that team. You can't really run on San Francisco. So that made it a lot more difficult for Rodgers. And, anyone could have won that game, but San Francisco deserved it more. And
look at Brady. Brady, when you make an adjustment, he looks at it and he sees what's going on and he adjusts accordingly too. For some reason, Rodgers is not being able to do that.
But Rodgers don't have the talent, I think, that Brady has. Brady has a great offensive line, except for right tackle, because that Kristen Wirfs wasn't playing. But their offensive line is better. And I just think, and they have a great group of tight ends, probably the best group of tight ends in the NFL. And Brady's just a great quarterback. And I think he is better than Rodgers. And I was kind of doubting that for a bit. I thought Rodgers probably was a better quarterback this year, but I think Brady is. But again, if Rodgers retires or leaves as a free agent or whatever, Green Bay's a mediocre team. No doubt about it. They're going to fall into mediocrity immediately. Yep. And I think the head coach knows that.
How many times? I think he won one Super Bowl, but how many times he's been to the Super Bowl? I think one, right? He just went
once
and
or
won.
Twice. Yeah, it might be
twice.
I'm not sure either once or twice. Definitely once. It might be only be the one time. It's either once or twice. I can't.
Yeah.
It's definitely either once or twice, no more than 2.
All right, I think Brett Favre won one, and he won one, right? So
Yes,
they
they
have
both
total of
won
like
one.
four.
Rogers went to one.
So you
Favre
went
went to two, lost
Two.
the second one to Denver. I think.
That's correct.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
John
Right.
Elway against John Elway.
Against John Elway. That's right. All right. We're just going to go real quick now to Eagles talk again, and I'll go with Will on this one. There's discussion now, and this is amazing. I don't know what you think about this, but that there's talk that Rieger is thinking about like leaving because he thinks he needs better scenery. Do you think, that might be a bad deal for the Eagles to let him go?
No, it's a great deal for us. I mean, he's just not very good. And it actually kind of makes sense, even for him, because he's not going to make it here. The fans won't even allow him to make it here. I mean, the best thing for him, if he does want to, if he loves football and he wants to have a career, it's probably best for him to do it elsewhere. He's just not the player we drafted, and it's a shame. It's really not his fault that he was a first round draft pick, because he shouldn't have been. That's more on Howie, but he's never going to amount to that first round title that we see, and it's a shame. But I think, yeah, we should. If he wants to go somewhere, I would do whatever we can to move on. I don't know what you can get in return for him, but
Nothing.
That's my question. I mean, if they cut him, it's like a $7-8 million in dead money. But if you trade him, is that dead money goes with him?
I don't know
It
exactly
should-
how
it
that
should.
works.
I would think it would go with them if they trade them, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I would think the other, because you're not cutting them or anything. So I
Well,
would
what
think-
happened with Wentz? They still had the dead money.
No, they still
right?
had the dead money, Jimmy. You're right. So I don't know if
They would have them. So it's not going to be as easy as they think we
Yeah.
think it is, because of the dead money situation.
Yeah, so he's not getting cut. He'll most likely be on this team next year. But I want to say this, you think that, well, he's going from his sophomore year to his junior year, his third year now. So you think, okay, he hasn't done anything his first 2 years, so now he's going to really work out hard and come in strong for next year. But if you guys remember, he didn't report to camp this year for, I think, at least the first 2 weeks. They couldn't even get up. They didn't even know when he was coming in, because if you guys remember, he was down because a friend got killed. I don't know if you remember that.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
and then, but here's the thing: when he reported, he reported out of shape. I don't see him. Do you see him doing the work in the off season?
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't trust the process with this guy. I think you're not going to change him.
I don't know where his head was at after his friend died. So I mean, I can't really comment on that. But just seeing, he hasn't gotten better over the last 2 years, and you don't see him
worse.
get better each week. Yeah, he's getting worse. So I don't think the work ethic is there just from watching him play. But yeah, I would just, I'd see if you can get rid of him. But the same situation with Arcega-Whiteside, the reason we may have kept him for a third year is maybe because of that dead cap money. So you might see the same situation with Rager for one more year, and we'll walk from Arcega-Whiteside this year.
Well, I would, I think it would be a travesty if he was on this team next year. And we're talking about J. John now.
No.
Absolutely, he cannot be on this team.
Can't be on.
Can't be on.
This team, this wide receiver group has cost the Eagles offense tremendously by not having effective wide receivers. And to be honest with you, who's wide receiver number 2? I keep forgetting his name.
Watkins?
Yeah, Watkins. I don't know if he's wide receiver number 2. I think he might be third, but they don't have anybody else, so he's got to be a 2.
But they have to trade for
We
somebody.
really only
They
have
to
2
trade for
weapons.
somebody.
We
that's
really
right.
only have 2 weapons going into on offense,
But here's-
Devontae and Goddard.
Right.
And
Those are the
here-
only.
Is that because of coaching, or is it because of Hurts, or is it because they only have 2 wide receivers? So I don't know. We don't know.
I think it's all of it. It's all of it. Look at the Bengals receivers. Watkins he would be the 4th on that team. Like, that's how far behind we are from
Boy,
good
Higgins is great.
So is Boyd, and Boyd's a great player.
He's great. Boy, I remember him in high school. He was from Pittsburgh. He had a lot of speed, and he still does, but he's probably the slowest of those 3 guys. But I got to tell you this about Rager. my accountant, Ron. This is so funny. When Rager was a senior, or when Rager played his last year at TCU, my accountant's son was at TCU. And my accountant went down there and went to a couple games and watched the rest of their games on TV that he didn't go to. The day after he was drafted, he called me and said the Eagles are making the biggest mistake they ever made drafting this guy, because I watched him for 2 solid years, and he takes plays off. He runs lousy patterns. He has a great play here and there, but to me, he's nowhere near a first-round draft choice. He told me that the day after the draft, And to be honest with you, I didn't even know who he was when they drafted. I'm embarrassed to say I did not know him, and I thought I knew all the receivers in this draft. But anyway, we're talking too much about Rager. Let's go
Yeah,
on.
I just want to add one more thing
ahead.
about Rager.
Yep.
The thing is that what happened?
It was me. Good.
The problem is basically you had the similar situation with Aguilar, right? He kept dropping balls, but the guy was working his rear end off, just trying to, to get better and then, get over the hump. And you said there was an effort in it. With this guy, I don't see any effort. He just, he's just going through the motions. So that's the difference between Aguilar and Rager. Aguilar was having a similar problem, but at least he was working on it. This guy is not really working on it.
And the fans saw that, and they got behind Aguilar. They saw
Yeah,
this play.
exactly. And
Everybody gave me a hard time for so long because I liked Aguilar, but I mean that's why I liked him, because he wanted to get better. He really worked at it.
Yeah, no, he did. He worked real hard. And they keep saying Rager works hard. But anyway, we've been talking about Rager 15 minutes here. Let's go to the Sunday games. The first game, Tampa Bay and the Rams. The Rams dominated the game from the beginning, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a tremendous comeback and tied the game at 27, I believe. And then Cooper Kupp is an incredible wide receiver, and Stafford found him for a deep pass with under a minute to go, and they kicked the field goal and went away with a 30-27 victory. Vahe, I don't know what you think about the coach for the Rams, but my opinion, I think he was getting out coached in the second half, and he was about to blow it like he did in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. I don't know what you think.
I agree with you. And then Brady came back and almost won the game. I'm glad he didn't, because I'm sick and tired of hearing his name. But you're right. I mean, the thing is that at the end, he was being out-coached, and he was just, running out of time. Thank God for that field goal. And also, I mean, Brady can see he's aging, even though he made an comeback. But he can tell that basically, if this is not the year, maybe next year will be the last, because I think he's getting old.
Yeah, that's true. But going back to McVay, the coach for the Rams, I'm not sold on him as a head coach and a play caller. He's got some tremendous weapons, and they are built for his coach teams are built for today, not tomorrow. A lot of these players, they're going to have salary cap issues, I think, starting next year, even with some of these stars that they picked up. But he's loaded with talent, and I just don't think. To me, I don't think he is as great a play caller and coach as people think. You put him with a lot of different programs, I think he's just a normal guy, but he'll be around for a long time, I guess, because of his philosophy of trying to pick up stars, for the immediate future and not for the late future. But what do you think about their chances against San Francisco, Will?
I think they're gonna win. I mean, they've built this team to win right now. That's why they went and got OBJ and Jalen Ramsey last year.
Von Miller, right?
Von Miller.
He made a huge play in that game. They all did.
Yeah, Von Miller really is coming on.
Yeah, I think they're ready to win now.
Yeah, now let me get this straight. Will, Stafford did not make the Pro Bowl, correct?
No, he did not.
Okay, and he threw how many touchdowns? 40? Was it 40? I heard that stat. and then Hurts is a Pro Bowl alternate. So I do agree.
Stafford threw 41 touchdowns for 4,800 yards and had a 102 QBR for the season.
And Hurts was 13-9, I think. Was it 13 or 17-9? Either 13 or 17-9. That's this big disparity. Yeah, you're right. I think, and I'll tell you, to me, and Jimmy, I don't know what you think, but Stafford looked really good last week throwing the football.
Oh yeah, I was shocked that he took them right down the field like that. When the Rams got the ball, I'm like, everyone thought the Bucs were going to win. That he took them down the field and made those 2 throws to Cooper Kupp. That impressed me. Stafford, he stepped up big time. That throw to Cooper Kupp, that was
beautiful.
I don't know how he got that wide open.
Yeah,
I don't know how he got that wide open, but I was very impressed. They knew they had a score there. They
showed the play again, and I think there was miscommunication between the safety and the D-back. I don't know if it was zone coverage or press.
That crowd was fired up, and he made 2 throws, and boom, they made the kick, and that was it.
Tremendous.
They knew if they didn't score there, they were done. The Bucs were going to win the game.
Well, think about this too. Cam Akers had 2 disastrous fumbles. The first fumble at the end of the first half. So the Rams really could have won that game by double figures. And then he had the big one that almost cost them the game at the very end.
And Cooper Kupp had the fumble too.
Yeah, that's right.
He had the fumble too. And then he went back out and made the big play and won the game for us.
By the way, Armand, Josh Allen nor Joe Barrow made the Pro Bowl either. So just for the record, But the thing is that maybe there's intangibles that we don't see. See, that's the whole thing. Maybe you don't see the things that they see. That's why they picked Hurst over Josh Allen and Joe Barrow.
Vahe, are they drafting for the Eagles too?
What?
Are these same guys drafting for the Eagles?
Yeah.
Oh my God! I mean, that is unbelievable.
Armin, you remember on one of our videos, somebody wrote after I went on that little rant about Hurts making the Pro Bowl, and they said, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Hurts is amazing. He
really?
On one of the videos, there's a comment of some guy coming at me.
Maybe it was the guy from.
It wasn't me. It wasn't
maybe
me.
It was the guy from. Maybe it was a guy from Ireland that you said that actually
maybe it is.
was watching.
Maybe it is. I'll have a word with him.
So, but that's amazing. So, let's just go back to the Eagles again real quick before we go on to the last game, which was the best game of the 4. If the Eagles lose Gannon, what kind of, Jimmy, let me pose this to you. What kind of, don't give me a name, but what kind of coach and scheme that he runs you think would best fit this football team? This is one you're going to have to put your thinking cap on.
I want a veteran coach to come in. You know who I want. I want a veteran coach who's going to be a pretty experienced to this staff and command respect and get the respect of every guy in that locker room.
Well, if it's Jimmy Johnson, he's not around anymore.
He's not around, but there's a couple guys out there that they can go after. I'm not sure they would go there that route, but there's a couple guys out there that can come in and light a fire under the D.
So the kind of scheme, you want a scheme where it's more physical, more press coverage,
100%.
more blitzing?
Let's go back to the Green days. Let's go back.
One thing I don't understand, why is Jeffrey Lurie so fixated on finding some young guy who's going to become a star coach or a defensive coordinator? I mean, why? I mean, what's in it? Why don't you go and get somebody who's proven record and win now instead of like trying to find some Gannon or somebody else that, nobody heard of and suddenly, either fizzles out and maybe becomes somebody.
They all want to look like they're the smartest guy in the room instead of making the obvious.
Why?
I don't know. I'm with you, but I agree. I'm with you 100%. Go and get the obvious guy.
Sean McVay's first year, nationally, everybody was like, yeah, this is going to be the next best coach. He's going to be here for years. And I think that Jeffrey Lurie kind of wants that acknowledgement that he can go find that guy. And everybody's talking about the coach that he picked instead of just making the obvious decision. And it's hurting the Eagles.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
the obvious decision is to find somebody who's going to win you a Super Bowl. Not the obvious decision to find some young dude who eventually become somebody. That's not the game plan. That's not the rules of the game, you know?
Yeah.
I'm with you. I agree 100%.
Armin's having some technical difficulties
And-
over there.
Yeah, Armand.
I'm good. I lost something here. So, but no, they need a guy that is a little bit more aggressive. I went back and looked at a couple of the games, and I will admit at the end of the year that Gannon did try to do, like, he was passive, but he did make some changes slowly but surely. But the more I looked at the game tape, the more that I saw so many holes on defense, and it's everywhere. It's, first of all, they just were not getting enough pressure. And I don't know what coach could come in here and make this team now I'm talking about the defensive line, give more pressure, because as a group, this team did not get enough pressure on the quarterback. And Jimmy, I know you're saying in the draft, load up on D, load up on D. I agree 100%. But I think what this team needs to do is, number one, the defensive line needs to get better. So they need to focus on that. Their linebackers were not settled on the linebackers at all. And they need to do something with the wide receiver room, because a couple of them don't even belong in the NFL, I think, at this time. So
Do you think they're going to use all 3 picks, or do you think they're going to trade one of those picks for a future first-round pick next year?
well, let me pose a question to you, Jim. If Seattle would take two first-round picks and Hurts for Russell Wilson, would you take that deal?
I mean, it's a good question. Are we ready to win now, though? I don't think we are. So I don't think I would do that deal. I think I would use the draft capital that we have now to get a foundation in place. If I felt we were ready to win, you would do the deal. But I just think the team has so many holes that I'd rather use the picks to build a foundation. But a lot of people would go the other way and take Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
I do agree
Yeah.
with you, and I love Russell Wilson, and I would love to have him here. But we also got to think. I know Deshaun Watson's dealing with a lot of things, but you can probably get him for a lot cheaper than Russell Wilson and still keep a lot of that draft capital. You might only have to give up maybe a 2nd-round pick and Jalen Hurts to go back to his hometown.
no,
Over there, just because listen
no,
to me,
no,
there's
no,
not a lot of
no,
people in the market for
no.
this guy.
Well, here you
I
go.
think he wants to go to Miami. I think he wants to go to Miami or something.
Well, he wants to go. Apparently,
He
he liked the
does.
coach from Miami. And then I heard the coach had just got fired, and there's talk that he was going to interview with the Giants. And if the Giants hired him, that he would want to go to New York. I don't know. But if it were me, I don't know. The more I'm thinking about it, if Watson was offered to us for 2 first-round picks and Hurts, I think I would do it. And I know I changed my whole impression of this thing from the beginning of the year, but I think that if these lawsuits get settled somehow, I think he would be smart enough not to do anything as stupid as that ever again, and he could change his life a little bit, turn his life around. And he's never had any bad marks on him at all in college, all pro up to this point. And what is the guy, like 25, I think?
25.
25 years old. And if you look at his game tape, he's great with, like, he can throw the deep ball. He can throw the short to intermediate throws. He's every bit as fast, if not faster, than Hurts. And he's an all-around smarter quarterback. To me, he was an elite quarterback playing for a very, very mediocre / poor football team, the Houston Texans. So I don't know. I think that if he's around, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles take a look at him. And here's the other thing. Hurts is from Houston. That's where he lives, or that's where he grew up.
Yeah.
Hurts going back to Houston, where he grew up. I mean, that's a possibility also. the more I watched Hurts's game tape, the more disappointed I was at the very end, because you could tell he was not ready at all for that. I mean, not at all for that football game. And I don't know, is he going to regress from this point? But to me, I still think he deserves another year. But if Watson's available and they, like, let's just say that the Eagles offer 2 first-round picks and get a premier pass rusher as their other first-round pick and Watson, that's a pretty damn good.
So
That's
what
a
was the
pretty
deal
good
this
draft.
year? What happened this year? He was he suspended this year, or was he injured?
No,
No.
I don't
He
know.
was-
He
he
wasn't.
made a-
Listen, if you get him, he's probably going to get suspended for at least 6 games.
That's
Yeah,
what
What
I,
happened?
have to
I
What
agree.
happened this year? What happened this year? What was it? What was the? Why he didn't play?
He
This
was
year?
like, they just made him inactive or something,
Yeah,
but they
They
kept
made him
paying.
inactive.
They kept
Yeah.
He
paying.
didn't want to be. He didn't want to be there, and they knew that if they would start him, like if he did want to play and they started him, the NFL would have to jump in, probably suspend him until everything's settled. So the same situation would happen if he was to come anywhere and start. He's probably going to get suspended right away. But
So
this
if
is
this thing drags on for years, he's not going to be able to play.
Right, so you might lose him for half a year.
You
So
might
you
lose.
trade-
Well, no, not even
Let's
a
say
half
one
a
of
year.
the
It'd
guns
be-
falls out for more money, right? I mean, obviously, it's going to come down to money.
Well, that's right. He makes.
So what
buku
happens?
bucks
I
right
mean, they're
now,
going to
so-
wait until they get a settlement.
no. What it's sounding like, and everybody's been talking is that he's only probably going to miss 6 games when he's ready to
Yeah.
play, and that's going to come down from the commissioner.
Yeah,
But this is why I'm telling you guys, like, I don't think it's going to take 2 first-round picks to get him, because one, there's not a lot of teams that are going to take that risk on somebody with that type of background. We know Jeffrey Lurie has and could, because he's done it with Michael Vick, and you've seen Michael Vick change his life around. So Jeffrey Lurie is willing to do something like that, and other teams aren't. And because that you're not sure if he's going to be able to start right away, or if it's 6 weeks or whatever, a lot of teams are looking the other way. I really don't think it's going to take 2 first. I think for Russell Wilson, it's going to take 2 first-round picks. I don't think it is for Jalen.
well, I'll tell you where I disagree. I think with how these small amount of elite quarterbacks have played in the playoffs so far, I think a lot of teams are looking at Watson and seeing.
Yeah.
I think that there is a line of people, and I
I'm with
still
you. I
think it's
there's
going to
a
be.
bidding war for him. I think there's going to
I
be a
think
bidding
it's-
war.
Yeah, and here's the other thing between, if you look at the difference between Russell Wilson and Watson, there's almost a 10-year age difference there. I mean, seriously, I know that Wilson has good experience and everything, but Wilson's 34, and he was hurt this year. Watson has had a full year to recuperate his body. I mean, he should be raring to go this coming year.
And he's still got his prime years ahead of him.
Yeah,
I
so-
think there's
Absolutely.
half the league's going to be trying to get him.
Yeah, if your team's not ready, like the Eagles aren't right now, it's not a bad idea to bring him in, because he's so young, and then you can start building the team around him.
I agree, and I just feel bad saying this about Hurts, but I don't think when Hurts talked after the Tampa Bay game, first thing he said is, season 3 starts tomorrow. I'm going to start working out tomorrow. I don't think he really truly realized at that press conference how bad he really did play and how far he regressed in one game, and the biggest game of his career, where it got to the point where I think even the coaching staff and maybe upper management kind of might be doubting him a little bit right now. So
Could be.
yeah,
What-
so that
What
really,
really bothered me though about his press conference after is he kind of said that this game doesn't define us as a team,
Mhm.
but it does. Like, this is the playoffs. You're
absolutely.
defined by what you do in the playoffs, not what you do in the
Mhm.
regular season. And that's
Yep.
not the kind of answer that I was looking to hear when he was.
It
asked
comes
that
from
question.
immaturity. I think it comes from the fact that he doesn't know any better. I think that's what it is. This is his first time being in the playoffs.
yeah.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. I wouldn't hold it against him.
Well, here's the way I look at it. I think his mindset and Sirianni's mindset for next year, if Hurts is going to be the quarterback, is that I think Tampa Bay kind of pulled out the blueprint on how to defend this team. If Hurts is quarterback and they're a big running football team, load the box, make him beat you with his arm. And I think that Hurts all off season should just be thinking about that there's going to be an 8-man box many times that he's going to face in games, and he's going to have to try to find a way of getting that short outlet pass of the guy across the middle for, something. It's they and Sirianni needs to help him too. I don't think they helped. He helped them that much in that regard also.
I think one of the issues is basically for him to be able to process information quickly and get rid of the ball quicker.
Well, to
right now,
anticipate.
I mean, everybody,
he's not
I mean,
anticipating. He's
and
not.
I don't know if there's anything could be done about that, but that's what he has to work on.
Well,
Because
I
the
think
thing is that
I'm interrupted. I'm sorry, Vahid, but you're right. I think he needs to. I think he understands it. I think he really needs to understand it. But doing it is different than understanding it and saying, I'm going to practice doing it. So, I think he's just going to have to keep work, and he needs work on his footwork is really not that good. So he needs to work on that too. So sorry I interrupted.
I think,
you there.
was it like a few years ago, was somebody else, like they used to put blinders on his eyes, close and open, so that he can fasten his how quickly he can adjust to what's going on. You see something, then you don't see it. Maybe he needs something on that nature, not somebody with Sirianni, somebody else who specializes in basically quicken your reflexes and basically make a quicker decisions. Maybe somebody who specializes goes on, not necessarily Sirianni.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Well, hopefully that they'll do things like that with him in the off season. All right, before we wrap it up, any last minute thoughts, any little nuggets that you guys saw from the weekend, or something with the Eagles that was interesting, or a text or a tweet that was
I'm just happy that
off?
I'm happy that Matthew Stafford is finally getting the recognition that he deserves.
At 34 years old? 34.
He's been outstanding in Detroit, and he's just been so overlooked with how bad that team is. He threw to Megatron, I think one year. Megatron had 1,900 yards, and now Cooper Kupp is looking like Megatron 2.0.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm with you. I was always a Stafford fan, and I'm glad he's getting his due. I'm glad people are seeing how great he is, what he can do with a real offense.
I became a fan of him. I think it was either his rookie year or his sophomore year. He was taking like an absolute beating. I think I seen his helmet knocked off like 4 or 5 times. He had blood like all on his arms and stuff, and he was still out there playing. Like, he's just always been that real tough quarterback. I just really like him.
Oh, you're right. I mean, of the 4 quarterbacks left in the Final Four, I like him to win the Super Bowl, because besides him, also, I don't know whether you guys follow, his wife had some major tumor issues. And he had to go through a lot of stuff on a personal level. So if there's one guy who deserves to win the Super Bowl, at least at his age, it's him. Because other ones are younger. I mean, Garoppolo, we forget him, but the other 2 are younger, and they can always win. I mean, but him, it's getting to the end of his career, so maybe he deserves more than anybody else.
Yeah, this actually gives him the chance to show people that he's that elite type quarterback, and he can be remembered. If he stayed in Detroit this whole career, he would retire, and people would just forget about him. I think now people are finally seeing how good he is.
I think he may have another 4 or 5 years left also, with this team. Are you guys all in agreement that you think the Rams are going to win this week?
I think so.
I think it's going to be a very tight game, and I think it's going to go to the very end. And I think I can see the Rams winning, Garoppolo throwing a stupid pick at the very end of the game. Then he gets cut, or they trade him to like the Texans.
They just leave him there. They don't even bring him home on a plane.
Yeah. What about the AFC game?
You know what? It could be a letdown again for Kansas City. I mean, they played their hearts out. I mean, I don't know if you can top that. I can see an upset with Bengals.
Yeah. Well, think about this. The Bengals, really didn't score a lot of points in that game, and they won. I think that it was more the offensive game plan for the Texans, and the quarterback play was really bad. But then again, maybe the defense.
Tennessee.
I mean, not the Tennessee, and you got to give a lot of credit to Cincinnati's defense for the way they played in the scheme that they had. I don't know. In a fairy tale world, I would love to see Cincinnati win that game. I just don't know if they're going to be able to hold off Kansas City.
Yeah,
Cincinnati's defense is good, but not that good.
I think Andy Reid's going back to the Super Bowl again.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Listen, another team that if that quarterback was not with them, they would be a very mediocre team. Mediocrity would be the case with Green Bay without Rodgers, Kansas City without Mahomes, without question.
And that's why you got to give Kansas City credit. They traded up from, what were they, 27 in that draft and went to like 12, wherever they went to, and they took Mahomes.
Well, they listened to the head of personnel.
The one
I
guy
forget who it was, but that's the guy that deserves
Yeah.
credit for how good that team is doing, because he pulled out Mahomes' sophomore game tape from, was he TCU? No, he was, where did he
His
go to
job was to
college?
watch game
Texas?
tape, and he's like, "Yo, this is your quarterback right here."
Yeah. They showed him making one throw where he was running to the left and he turned his whole body around he flipped his hips and threw off his back foot or something. An incredible play in the end zone that you hardly see any quarterback able to do. And I remember the story was in Sports Illustrated, and he kept talking to Reed about it. And then finally he said again, he goes, "I want you to show you more tape on this guy." Reed didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear it. So Reed was pushed, getting rid of him. He didn't want to hear it, but then he finally started to look at the tape, and they said, "Oh my God, I think we do got something here." So it had nothing to do with Reed. Reed's not a great evaluator of talent. This other guy was, Matt Beecher, I think.
I forget the name. I read the same article that
He's
you
a
read.
PA guy. He's from Pennsylvania. I know the guy's from Pennsylvania. I don't know if he's still in that position. I think he's still with the team. I'm not sure, but he's the guy that should get credit for how this team's doing, because Mahomes is really the real deal. But also, I have to admit this, the type of offense that Reed runs is just perfect for Mahomes to be quarterbacking. And so, turned out to be a marriage, actually. So any last minute thoughts before we wrap this up? Zero. So we had a good one tonight. We're basically at an hour tonight. That was a long one. So looks like hopefully we'll have 2 great games this week. And if we do, we're going to have the podcast again next week. We'll see you guys later on another edition of Flying High with the Birds, Philadelphia Eagles Talk. See you guys later.
Take care.
Later, guys.
Yeah.